What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So as y'all know, the new online time trial has been reset here in Gran Turismo 7. With that, we're also going to be able to use the new Hyundai on this track, so it should be pretty interesting, alongside the other new Gran Turismo here on the other online time trial. This one is luckily going to be over in around 5 or so days, when looking at this. This one is obviously going to be the newest one. So for this, I am currently sitting at 0.2.49% at a minute 38.5, and gold is going to be 139.023. I am going to say right now it's probably going to maybe drop maybe 100, maybe 200ths of a second. If that, though, it's probably not going to go down all that much besides that. You're also going to have to use the Hyundai, which I would say is not going to be that surprising because it's the vehicle you have to run on this one. For me, though, I did end up renting a specified vehicle, picking my color on it, which I would say you don't have to use your own. I do think a lot of players own this thing, but if you don't, that is not going to be an issue. Now, besides all of that, though, similar to the other time trial videos, the first thing I do want to show before going over the track is my assist settings and my controller/ghost settings. So the first thing, the assist settings, I am going to be running manual, which I would say probably doesn't matter because this thing is an EV and it does not have any gears in it. Besides that, I'm going to be running 0 on TC. Now, I would recommend if you are struggling, 1 or 2 would even work, but for me, though, I was having more luck having this on 0. Besides that, though, my ABS is going to be on default. I do know some people are probably running weak on this, but I always keep mine on default. Everything else here is going to be off. I really don't mess with any of this stuff. My active stability management is going to be on, and my counter steering assistance is on weak. Besides that, I really haven't touched much of anything else. Looking at my controller settings here are going to be bone stock. Haven't changed anything on any of this stuff either, but I would understand that probably changing your steering sensitivity might help in certain engagements. Besides that, guys, the last thing I want to mention here about these settings is the ghost stuff, which funnily enough, I was messing around. I had my personal ghost on, I had the loaded ghost on. I was then like, okay, well, what if my personal ghost is messing me up? I did end up turning that off legit. My second run, I did manage to get way quicker, shaving off around 0.4 plus of a second without my personal ghost on, only having the loaded ghost on from the top level players. Funny part is, I feel like in some ways the personal ghost might end up messing me up a bit because I might look at that or focus on that too much instead of racing. But now jumping onto the racetrack here, the first thing you're probably going to notice the second you do end up starting it is you are going to be greeted with an S corner. I am going to go over this a tad more toward the end of the event because you will be faster when you approach it, but the thing that you're going to want to aim for is it's okay to cut the turn a bit. In fact, that first part of the S corner, guys, you can get most of the vehicle over the side of it, basically aiming and having it straight into the next corner going into that one. Of course, do not hit like the right side by like that pole thingy because then you would end up failing, but you can easily aim the car and set that next corner up almost to a T though. Besides that, we're going to have a small straightaway heading into the next corner, which is going to take you right to the starting point of the event. This one I was having some issues with. I was trying to get like a proper, like I guess you could say, angle on it, maybe trying to get the best way to approach it, but every time I would do it, I would mess up a bit. But the best way I found to do this one, though, is ride the left part of the track, basically on the apex part of it, and then turn pretty tight into the corner itself. What I would then do is pretty much aim out and kind of come out slightly toward the middle of it. That way it's going to line you up and you can basically full gas out of the entire corner. And it's okay if you ride the left part of the track basically out of it because you can accelerate. That way it's going to give you a lot more speed coming out of that corner. Again, I was messing this one up a lot, but I was noticing that was probably the best way to do it, at least coming out of that at the best speed you possibly can. Now, when you are going to be approaching the starting line of the event, the speed I would normally get to, which I do know isn't the best, was probably around 106 to like 109-ish miles per hour, which I would say is going to be plenty because, again, I got a minute 38.5 on that, even being a tad slower than most of the other ghosts in that area. Besides that, we're going to have a decently long straightaway. This is when the fun does end up beginning with this vehicle. The thing is, guys, you have to brake very early with this car, like you do not have a choice. Like, yeah, you could probably brake later, but you're most likely going to fly off the track, and we don't want that, do we? So what I would recommend here is once you are on that small straightaway, definitely start hitting your brakes before the 150 marker on the left part of the track. you are definitely going to want to do that. I found that's going to be the safest way to get around this corner in basically the tightest way possible. I was trying to do it a few times where I would break it like the 100 or like even the 125, which is in the middle of that one, and I would always be a tad too wide in the corner. If you are going to be braking before the 150 though, you can easily approach it and basically have the best angle possible getting you into that corner, because I was noticing like, yeah, you could take it a bit wider. Sometimes you could probably slow down a tad later like after the 150, but every test I did though, guys, stopping before the 150 or starting to slow down anyway, you'd always be around, let's say maybe about 40 or so miles an hour in the corner itself, but you're also going to be able to turn insanely tight on the right part of it, basically going down like the mild hill right into that corner into the next part. I was noticing doing that always gave me the most speed possible. Like, yeah, you could take it wider, maybe try to accelerate out of it, but the Hyundai's not going to be the fastest thing out there, so probably trying to accelerate out of the corner might not end up working. Besides that, we're then going to have a small tiny straightaway area into the next corner, and this one I would say is probably going to be fairly simple. Like, I basically would aim toward the middle of the track or so, keeping the car around 60 or so miles an hour, trying to maintain that going down slightly. That way I'm going to be in the corner and being able to fly out of it on the right part of the apex into the next one. This turn I would say is going to be fairly simple, not too insane there, but do keep in mind though, again, if you take this turn really wide, I would say it will definitely mess your run up. That way you're going to have to brake even more in that corner, and guess what? That is going to make you slower. One thing I was noticing in this event specifically though is it really helped me a lot with practicing my trail braking, which is definitely going to help so dang much in every aspect of this game. Gotta admit that I am fairly new to Gran Turismo, so learning small things like that is probably going to be helpful. Right after that though, you're then going to immediately approach the next corner, which for this I would basically take it a tad wider, basically braking or trail braking into the left part of it, kind of hugging the left apex part of that corner. That way you're going to be able to take it tighter, but the main reason why I recommend it is it's going to set you up for the next part of this corner. The thing is, if you do end up taking this one pretty dang wide, I did notice a lot of issues. It would end up messing up the next corner. You then have to go back into the track a bit on the left part of it, pretty much going on the wide part. That way you can go into the next corner, and guess what? You're already losing legit seconds and seconds trying to do it in that method. So I would recommend being on the right part of the track when approaching, then basically turn into the left part of this area by the apex. That way it's going to line you up for the next corner, which is definitely going to be the fastest way to do it. Besides that, the next corner is going to be kind of funny because you can cut this one a good amount. The reason for that is I was noticing you could probably get over half the vehicle over on the right side of that track there. That way it's going to aim you into the straightaway. A few times I was doing this run, I was kind of afraid to go over that. Like, is it going to give me a penalty? Can I really go over that far? Turns out you definitely can. That way it's going to aim you into the straightaway even better, giving you way more speed coming out of it. I was trying to take the turn a tad wider sometimes, and guess what? That would then mess me up. I'd have to like slow down a bit, try to aim the car, that way I don't go off the track and stuff. So I would definitely recommend on this one, guys, do not be afraid to cut it. It will definitely help so dang much. We're then going to have a small straightaway taking us into the next corner, which for some odd reason was the main corner I was having issues with in the entire event besides any other one. Yeah, it might sound kind of dumb, but I really messed this one up so many dang times. Similar to the other stopping in the beginning of that first corner though, stop before the 100-meter thing on the left part of the track there. That is probably going to give you enough time to stop, because we all do know you can't downshift this car, so if you are going a tad past that, you're going to slam your brakes. You are most likely going to fly off the track, mess up your entire run. Ask me how I know, because I kind of did it multiple times. But for me though, when I was approaching this corner, one of the best ways I found to do it though is to basically brake, go toward the right part of it, kind of aiming toward the back of the middle of the corner, then kind of trail braking a bit, which I know this might sound a bit insane, but the way I was doing that though, I kind of aimed enough to get myself set up for the next part of it, to where I could basically accelerate fully out of the next corner. Like, yeah, you could probably brake a tad later, maybe take the turn at a wider angle, and then maybe accelerate out of it that way as well, but for some odd reason I found being able to aim the car and accelerate out of it that way seemed to work pretty dang well. Besides that, we're going to have a small straightaway right into the next corner. On this one, guys, do not be afraid to go on the right part of the track, like on the green part of it. That way you're going to be able to aim into this corner at the best angle possible. One way I found to do this is also cut the left part of the track a bit, angling the car. That way you're not going to be like flying off it or something like I would go on the apex a bit. I did notice taking that wide, sometimes going on the right part of the track after this corner, wasn't really helping me that much, man. Like, it was actually making me slower. So I did go back in. I was like, okay, well, let me take this a tad tighter on the left part of it. Kind of slow down a bit. That would angle my car so I can accelerate even faster out of it. Definitely probably the best way to do that one. We're then going to have the next corner right after that, which is going to be a fairly long one. I was noticing kind of braking a tad earlier and aiming into the corner a bit, even trail braking a little bit in the middle of it, guys. That way you can angle it again, and then full gas right out of it, even going off the track a bit. That way you're going to have the most speed you possibly can. I feel like that was probably the best way to do this one. Like, yeah, maybe not braking in it was the best idea, but again, I still got a minute 38, even driving not the best, because I am still learning a lot here in Gran Turismo. Doing these time trials is really helping my track knowledge so dang much in this game. We're then going to have a pretty long straightaway, which is going to bring us into that final S corner again, the one that you did end up starting on. Now, this area I would say is going to probably be incredibly critical to get the right spot down in order to stop. That way you can get around it at the perfect angle possible. So the way I found to do this area though is you're pretty much going to want to start stopping before the 150-meter sign again, pretty much the last one on every single corner, because the Hyundai doesn't like to stop that much, or at least it is going to take more of it to stop because you can't downshift. So in ways though, it's basically going to force you to end up stopping way earlier because you pretty much don't have a choice to do it. So for this area, before this S-turn, guys, I would recommend stopping before the 150 marker. There's also going to be a white line on the road. I noticed stopping right around that area was basically perfect. Now the thing is about this S-turn, when you are going to be approaching this a tad quicker, the best way I found to do it is do not be afraid again to cut the first part of the corner. And the funny part is about this corner is I was noticing that you can easily cut it more than you think you can. Like, yeah, if you're going to drive all the way into the grass, then yeah, you're going to get a penalty, but you can get most of the vehicle over the left side of this corner, aiming right into the next one, pretty much as a straight shot. Like, that was the best way to do it. The way I would find to do this, guys, if you are trying to be a tad faster, maybe you brake later in this area. Like, let's say you might end up braking a tad after the 150 marker. That way you're going to be like, okay, well, let me start stopping now, then I can take it wider. The issue with that is you're then not going to be able to cut it, setting yourself up for the next part of the corner, and boom, you are going to have to angle the car. That's going to cost you so much time. You can legit lose everything on this last corner, guys. Ask me how I know, because I was messing up multiple times in that one. Besides that, we're then going to have the final corner once again. I would also say, guys, this one can mess it up a bit. You'll be surprised how much time you can lose in a single corner. It's kind of insane. Like, you can pretty much have a good run the entire event, and then boom, the final corner, you take it a tad too wide or something, and you lose all the time you thought you did end up gaining. It really is crazy how that works. But in this corner though, again, I would recommend approaching it as a wide angle, going into the right side of it, kind of angling it that way you can accelerate out of the turn with full speed. I was always reaching that said finish line around 108, around 110 or so. So I would say doing that, guys, is going to get you the best chance of getting the highest score possible, at least being able to get around that final corner with the most speed possible. Overall, I would say this time trial is probably going to be fairly difficult. As someone who really does love to play in manual, always downshifting and stuff, not being able to shift up or shift down and stopping and only using the brake button, it is honestly kind of wonky. But if you have any questions, do let me know in the comments below. But here's the gold run I did end up getting with the lovely Hyundai. It might have not been perfect, but at least it's going to get you that 2 million credits.